Welcome to the official YouTube channel for the Colin Cowherd podcast. Go on, hit the subscribe button. There it is, so you don't miss any of our football content this season. It has been, if I might say, fantastic. All right, it wasn't pretty, and the weather was less than ideal. We talk about good spots and bad spots for young quarterbacks. I did not think this was a good spot for Bo Nix. Denver beats the Jets 10-9. I have two takeaways on this game. First of all, I thought it was a great spot for the Jets. Star quarterback, extra time to prepare against rookie quarterback, back-to-back road games. Instead, Denver brought enormous pressure. Aaron Rodgers got banged all day, 15 times, multiple sacks, hits. They could not protect him. They had, I think, 5 either delay of games or offensive penalties at the line of scrimmage. I thought the Jets looked out of sync. Aaron had no time. Aaron took a beating today. And that's the second game in a row. Denver's defense, they drafted a couple guys on that side. It's playing really well. I think it's playing over its head. But my bigger takeaway was undisciplined penalties on the Jets. Maybe it's an outlier. Aaron got crushed. They couldn't protect him. And that's not an elite defense in the eyes. We're not talking Kansas City, even Buffalo, Baltimore. And by the way, Jets have Minnesota next in London. So this was like, get the layups. This was a layup. Extra prep time, lose to Denver. This is where Aaron kind of called Saleh out after the game on some of his stuff. Does it go sideways, or do you just say bad weather game?
To me, when I'm watching the first half, I went, had it on one of my screens. I'm like, the box score means nothing in this game, right? You get a game, it's going to be weird. You just win it and move on. Bo Nix threw for 60 yards. 60 yards. You cannot lose a game at home. I don't care what the weather is. When the opposing quarterback, who's a rookie making his 4-star, throws for 60 yards and they score 10 points and you lose. Like, you can't get to 12 or 15. And this just gets back. And even Aaron says after the game, like, yeah, the weather was bad in the first half, but I was making bad throws. He's running for his life. I mean, there were several times where, like, Aaron, you better get out of bounds. And he's running as hard as he can to get, because they're coming for him.
Yep.
And, this gets back to, what did Denver have? They have one of, if not the best corner in the league. And where they put that guy on? Their best wide receiver. So it was harder for them to operate. Yep. And some of these other guys, they're not exactly rolling out. This is not Green Bay. They're not going 3 deep at that position. They're so dependent on him. And when he couldn't, and it was going to be hard, especially in the first half, it was just torrential downpour. It's hard. You have to win that game. But you know what, Colin? Do they? Their head coach is Robert Saleh, who, now let's just look at his history. Nice guy, not winning a lot of games. And we just don't trust their coaching staff. So it's like, Vance Joseph's come a long way from last year around this time and giving up 70 points. This year he's doing a really good job. Because like you said, they're not exactly rolling out Pro Bowlers everywhere on defense. But who are you taking? Just in a game. Bad weather game, weird situation. Sean Payton, Robert Saleh. Even if you don't know the quarterbacks, you're taking Sean Payton every day of the week. And that was the type game where it's like, well, I thought the Jets were supposed to be gritty and tough. It's like, okay, you're playing the Patriots. And listen, you and I and anyone that watched gave Aaron a lot of credit. It looked really good. I watched the Patriots play the 49ers today, and the Niners treated a thing like a practice and won by 20. I mean, they're a joke. They're not any good. So, okay, it's the NFL. You want to win, but, like, did we put too much stock in that game? Because I'm watching today. It's like, well, where's your grittiness and toughness? This is the type game where your defense gets a couple touchdowns, weird game, but you win 17-10. But you score 9 points. 9 points. Like, that's just, and it comes down to a field goal in a bad weather game that the dude missed.
So let's be honest about this. So the Jets offense, outside of a couple plays, was abysmal against the Niners. It struggled against Tennessee, and it was pretty awful today. So we have to be totally honest. They have looked good. The Jets have looked good on a short week game against Jacoby Brissett and a rookie head coach at home against the Patriots. That's when the Jets look good. They didn't look good against Tennessee. No. They won. They got boat raced by San Francisco. They looked awful today. To me, this team has had one really good game against, as we watch the Niners hammer New England, the worst team in the league. I think we're over. If the Jets played in Indianapolis, I think we don't like their head coach. We know the coordinator is suboptimal. The offensive line today got worked by a hyper aggressive defensive front without a Pro Bowler. Denver was beat up, I think, in the linebacking core. I watched that game and I'm like, okay, don't be too harsh. But that is not extra prep, and that was
Colin,
the offense.
I understand they're stacking the line of scrimmage, but in a game like that, how is Rodgers throwing it 42 times a game? They only ran 23 times. Like that's a game where any good coordinator to me is running it 35 times. It'd be one thing if you're down 17-0. They were up after halftime 6-0. So it's the game, and then they score at 7-6. Like that's a game where you're running it nonstop. But Aaron gets the play call. Like, is he listening to everything Nathaniel Hackett? I don't blame him, because in Aaron's mind, I know more football. I'm smarter than this guy, and the only reason he's there is because of him. It's a very weird dynamic, the whole thing. It's like feels like Aaron's the superior, but he's there because Aaron wanted him. But it's just, I just don't see how you're rushing for 23 attempts. Like, to me, that number has to be well over 30 in a game like that. It'd be one thing if he's averaging 10 yards to say, hey, they're still being explosive in the weather. They're not. He was dinking and dunking even when he was completing balls. Partly couldn't even grip the ball. And every time he went back there, like you said, by the end of the game, you're like, he just hurt his knee. He's kind of getting up because he's getting pepper.
Oh, no. Aaron took a beating. I'll give him credit. Aaron was not short on passion.
No, he was into it. No, for sure. But I don't know why they're calling somebody totally into it. Like, just make it easier on the guy. Don't they go too deep at running back? The backup, the kid from Wisconsin, the 21-year-old, is like 240 pounds. Braylon Allen had 8 carries a day. Like, how does he not get 15 in that game in that weather? You and I have lived in the Northeast. On a day like that, it's brutal. It's brutal if there's no football going on, let alone slippery, right? It's that turf in New York that everyone hates. You're asking Aaron to drop back a lot. That's a brutal loss. That is a brutal loss. Even if Denver turns out to be solid, like you're going on the road to Minnesota. I think in a week they play Pittsburgh. Their schedule, I remember looking at it, like it's kind of, this thing could get, we just do not trust their coaching staff. And the NFL, in college, you see it all the time. Like, even when the game plan's bad, if you got better players, like, you got no shot. Like USC, like, they've got way better players than Wisconsin. So even if they're off, like, who cares?
Yeah.
The NFL is just not like that. Like, unless you're the '07 Pats or some of these teams that are so dramatically talented than the opponent, like, what the hell's the big difference between the New York Jets and the Denver Broncos? Maybe they're better if you just put them on a neutral field and beautiful weather, but that's not football, and that's not the NFL. So you get this spot. It's like, well, Vance Joseph and Sean Payton for the last second half of last year and so far this year, like, kind of feel like they know what they're doing. And Robert Saleh and Nat Hackett, now we got pretty long evidence that, given their spots, like Saleh as a defensive coordinator, as a head coach, it just hasn't been great. And it's like this excuse, that excuse. Like, eventually you either win or you don't.
Yeah, when Saleh left, didn't D'Amico Ryans take the job?
And he was better.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So usually if you're a good coordinator and you take a job, you are not replaced by somebody that is viewed as better. Right now, when D'Amico left, it was Steve Wilkes. That wasn't better. So generally, if you're a hot shot coordinator and get a job, you don't upgrade. And I got nothing against Saleh, but I know enough people inside the Niners organization. They looked at D'Amico as a superstar.
But just look at, and in fairness to Saleh, like, D'Amico is a superstar. But look at him. He's better in Saleh's defensive coordinator, becomes a head coach, immediately just good. Last year makes the playoffs, going to cruise the playoffs again. Like, he just knows what he's doing. And I think it's just one of those jobs, you either kind of got it or you don't. And we know fast, and you feel it when a guy walks into the room. Like, I've been around Andy Reid, Harbaugh, you just know it. And D'Amico was that guy as a player. When I was with the Eagles, we traded for D'Amico. Like, we traded his play. He'd torn his Achilles. He wasn't the same player, but we valued his intangibles, his smarts, And it's translated. The guy went from like graduate assistant or quality control to the defensive coordinator in like 3 years. I mean, it's unheard of. This guy made millions. So it's like, why are you even coaching D'Amico? It's because I was born to do this. And clearly he was. Mark Salo, just nice guy. I think he's a good defensive coordinator. But this whole situation, just a lot like the Eagles with Sirianni, it just can get weird, and it can get weird fast. And partly because of their markets, right?